All right, good evening. This is the January 2021 extracurricular meeting. This is Steve Miller. If we could go around and introduce ourselves to get started.
Julia Olson.
Okay. All committee members are here except Ms. Leone is absent. We get started on the agenda. As far as agenda items, the first item on the agenda is the Esports Club presentation.
So I'm Mr. Hendershot. Colton Hendershot. I'm out for one teacher here at the high school. I recently had the idea of doing an Esports Club here on games such as like Call of Duty, Rocket League, Brawlhalla, some other games. There's a whole list of like Rainbow Six Siege, but the main thing is bringing a esports team to the school because it's a growing activity among the youth. It's something like it went from 800,000 people in 2015 to 1 billion fans in 1 year in 2016. So it's growing that much, and there's schools such as Western Michigan University who are building esports stadiums. So it's something soon that's becoming scholarships that'll be available for students. And I'm sure we've all heard of the student from Pottsgrove a couple of years ago who won $3 million. But this is a growing community and sport. It's getting recognized as a sport. Something that's going to help our students a lot with just getting more students involved in extracurricular activities, one. And two, it's going to help more students that aren't typically involved in extracurricular activities get a group, become part of a group that you may not have seen them become a part of before. So it really brings the school community together a lot more. And I mean, in the times of what we're in right now, it's something that students can actually attend from home. We don't actually have to hold anything in the school. And it's relatively free as long as the game is free. So there's not a whole lot of downsides to it. But one of the things that is really nice is there's organizations outside of our community, such as the High School Esports League. So we don't actually have to set up tournaments or anything like that. We can compete with schools from around the country that are already pre-organized for us in games like Valorant, CSGO, Rocket League, and League of Legends. Those are the big names right now in esports. And we can even set up community events to fundraise and things like that for tournaments. Other than that, some major concerns that, or some common concerns are that video games such as CSGO, Call of Duty, things like that, they're first-person shooters and are afraid that they're going to incite violence. Thing is, about 97% of male students play video games and 83% of female students already play video games. So it's unlikely that they haven't played these games already. And if we would have seen an impact, we probably would have seen it by now anyway. So, and there's been studies that show that violent video games don't necessarily incite violence because it's more on the competition and teamwork of the game than it is actually the violence of the game. And the majority of these games, the violence or in a sense, can be turned off, such as blood. So in Valorant, instead of blood and corpses on the ground, you would see sparks when things hit and little holograms on the ground instead of corpses. And then there's games such as Rocket League, which is literally just car soccer and hockey combined into one, which has no gore. It's very teamwork based, much like soccer, just with 2 people on a team or 3 people on a team instead of 11. But I have 2 students, Colton and Connor, who are willing to be student leaders in this. We set up a Discord server, which is how our meetings would take place. More often than not, it wouldn't take place with everybody in a room. Discord is a platform that's kind of like a private chat room. We can select who comes in, we can pick, we can ban, and only certain people are allowed in. And we can make it so only myself or admins can invite people, so we don't just have like what you would have Zoom bombers, they get a link. It doesn't work like that. They have to get a specific link to them. And on that platform, it allows us to see what games they're playing at any given time. So if we don't want a game to be part of our community, we can tell that student, hey, get off that game, or you're not allowed to play that game while you're on our server, on our Discord server. And of course, they have to have their real name and be confirmed through the whole process on there. And it's moderated by having selected moderators that go through the admins, and they will be in servers throughout the day so they can hear what's going on. And then we also have what's called bots, and the bots automatically monitor content in the text channels, such as profanity and things like that, and they will record that on a student and kick them or report it to us, whatever is necessary, however we program it. But that's basically how it would work. And then on top of that, it helps promote equity. I was talking to Mr. Orm here at the high school about creating more or less a network that's a little more unlocked, so we can download games and play games on computers here at school. Only certain computers. That way we can get a more equitable formation of this club where students can actually play games that are free and our computers have the ability to play them. So if they don't have a console at home, they can still be a part of the club if they really want to. We would just have to stay, I or Mr. Warren would have to stay after school so they can do that. But that is something we would have to set up further with the IT department. And the future, what we want to see this go to is more a competitive aspect. So we want to see it evolve into teams, very competitive teams for each type of game. So we can have students enter tournaments and get scholarships for specific games and possibly even make a career out of it, because I'm sure many of you have heard of these Twitch streamers that make buku bucks on just donations alone onto their stream. Shroud, for instance, at one point it was reported he was making over $100,000 in just donations a month for streaming video games, on top of all the other things like sponsorships and tournaments. So that is something that we really want to strive to push this club into, on top of just building a bigger school community. And I know just from the students I spoke with in my classes, I had about 120 students, and of those 120 students, 50 of them signed the signature form to get a club going. So that was basically just from my classes alone, without pushing it too much further to the whole school. So just out of that small sample size, we can project that to be a large portion of the school that wants this to happen. But if there's any questions.
Yeah, I guess you said the Discord server, is that something that we'd have to purchase, or?
It's completely free. So for instance, I have one for just my friends and I.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely free platform. It's the most commonly used in terms of PC gaming. And it's free to set up, it's free to moderate, everything on there is free. Just like the Steam game launcher and Epic game launcher, it's all free, and there are free games on there to play that are competitive that we use, such as Valorant, CSGO, and Rocket League.
Do you have more questions?
Go ahead.
So, I know I probably look like I'm 150 years old, but this is very exciting to me because my son is going to be very pissed that he's not here anymore, because he would have joined if you had had this back in 2018. He's actually, my son, for what it's worth, he goes to RIT and he's on their Esports B League for League. So, I mean, and he still carries a full course load. He still does all his work, and so I do know that you can be a gamer and still get your work done. The one thing I was are we going to be, is the school going to be developing a Twitch channel to stream like tournament live?
We don't have to. That is always an option to fundraise, because
Okay.
of course then we can bring our outside community in, because Twitch allows you to take donations.
Right.
So it would be an option to fundraise for the club or anything that we want to do. Say if we want to put something towards a charity, that would be a great way to pull the community.
Like, I mean, I was thinking, if one thing that we tried to do a couple of years ago and we couldn't because we just didn't have the infrastructure at the high school. We thought about having like a Smash Bros tournament to raise money for the Magic Club, actually. And But I say it like it was my idea, it was not my kid, that idea. The thing I'm concerned about is just if we do have live streaming of tournaments with other schools, kids would have to be really reinforced that they have to watch their language.
Right.
When they're, I'm not being funny, I'm just like that they'd have to follow the school rules.
Yeah, I completely understand that. I would have to do more research on what the Twitch allows streamers to control. Because
Okay.
some platforms do allow you to moderate language in the chat.
Like if there's yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that is something we would have to look into.
Right.
And of course, they would have to be notified, like, if you are caught doing this, there would be consequences
Right.
for the school sanctioned event.
Yeah, I just, and I didn't know if you've talked to any other teachers that run an esports league at other local schools. It might be something to discuss among, if we approve it, you know, it might be something to discuss among other local esports league. What is the word for, like, the teacher that runs the thing, the advisor? Right, you know, that might be something that would need to be discussed, how they handle it.
Do we know of other schools with clubs?
Wilson is, and Kutztown.
Mhm. I knew that somebody in the county was, I didn't know how many.
I know Pottsboro. I know Pottsboro has
Boyertown
like a
is in
club.
the same position as us right now.
Okay,
At our last principals meeting, this was discussed amongst the county principals, and we're in the suit with about 6 other schools being presented this activity.
it you know, it is, there's low cost in getting it up and running as a club, and to the kids, I think there's a lot of benefit. So,
I guess,
if,
yeah, well,
you know.
what are the costs? And I mean, what's really being requested to get started?
Just the approval of club, the cost is pretty much zero unless we want to
Okay.
push it into more. For now, it's literally zero.
Okay.
Because students have to pay for their own games, much like they have to pay for their own cleats.
mhm.
So, and I mean, games are a lot cheaper than cleats anymore. But that's basically what it comes down to, is students have to pay for their console that they want to play on. Hoping we can get some computers on their own private network here at school that will be used for that after school to promote more equitable access to these things. But it's really Discord. The chatting platform is free.
Mhm.
And a
If
lot
you
of
do
people-
set up a Twitch channel, that would be free as well.
Yep. And if it gets to a point where we set up a school Twitch thing, there is a possibility of becoming affiliate with Twitch. They run affiliate things now where you get so many viewers and you do it so often. You do form a partnership with Twitch essentially, and they will pay you for subscribers. So if we have subscribers to the school network, they pay $5 or whatever, and you get part of that money to go toward, that you get paid in every month in subscriber fees.
Okay.
And of course that could go towards the club, part of fundraising and the school.
I'm sorry if I went like all fangirl. That would be very exciting if we had.
Oh, no, that's, it sounds like a great idea. I'm just curious as far as if we do approve, what are the next steps?
The next steps would be to build up the Discord server a little bit more. We have a skeleton of it right now. We want to do a little more research to make sure we can make it as secure as possible. And then getting the word out to the students and making sure we're all on the same page of what games we can play. If need be, the big games are the FPS shooters, the first-person shooters, such as Valorant. That's the big up-and-coming game right now with the teamwork, and Call of Duty. If need be, for liability's sake, we can send out a permission slip for this, so parents would have to approve their students to play these games with the school. But
Anything above a T rating?
there are quite a few
Yeah.
above T rating, such as Call of Duty, that is M, but like I said, it'd be something that would have to be, we could use a permission slip for.
Okay. Yeah.
Being that that's probably one of the most popular games right now.
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah.
a lot of people have heard Warzone and Fortnite, but I think Valorant is only T rated right while it does have the blood and the bodies, it is only team rated.
You said they removed those from.
Yeah, some of the games we can remove, such as Valorant, but there is an option to turn gore off. So instead of bodies on the ground where somebody died, you would have a hologram with their picture on it. And instead of blood, it would be sparks that come off the gun. And I'm pretty sure Call of Duty has an option as well to get rid of gore.
Those,
I don't remember off the top of my head.
if we did approve that, the new club, those things could be adjudicated on a case by case as things go on, I guess.
Yeah, we can always do approvals from there on out. You know, come up with a list of games and compromise what we want to start with. Of course, I always urge these bigger games, while they are violent in a way, the kid isn't thinking violently when they're playing the game. They're more or less playing it for the objective. Kind of like football, you're going to tackle somebody, you're not going to tackle them to beat them up. You're going to tackle them for an objective.
Is Call of Duty a team game as well? Like
It is. So, much like Fortnite, I'm sure you're all familiar with Fortnite, Call of Duty has that Battle Royale mode of 4 players, 3 players, or 2 players on a team, or even a single player. And it's last man standing on this big map out of 100 players. And then they also have modes where it's one team against another, and then you have to get to an objective. Either your team defuses a bomb that the other team planted in a certain amount of time, or eliminate the other team completely. Kind of like paintball in a way.
I don't get a vote.
No, I am in favor of moving it forward. Other committee members? Yes?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
It'd be good if you were on the committee, Bucky.
My only question is, in reverse to shooters, is that something the school, like, would that make headlines that children is allowing?
It shouldn't, being that there's thousands of schools across the country that already do it.
Yeah.
And they play games such as CSGO where you can't necessarily turn off the gore, so there's like blood all over the map when people are shot on that game. And that is a game that Wilson nearby actually plays with the esports team. So if you haven't heard that, you probably won't hear it from Daniel Boone. The biggest thing in terms of getting headlines is if a student wins $3 million like they did at Oxford.
Yeah. Did we get part of that? Or?
Unfortunately, from what I heard, the student didn't get much money out of that
Yeah.
because the team took most of it that he was on. I mean, I don't say much money, but he got $300,000 or something like that from what I heard, which is still a lot. But
It's a lot less than 3 million.
no, it's a lot for 15-year-olds.
Definitely
Yeah,
all
it's
the
true.
taxes. Okay. Well, I recommend we move it forward then. All right. Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is the winter sports update.
We are growing, so we started girls basketball Saturday night. Tonight we have wrestling over in the main gym. We are fully slated, so there's probably an event every night at home, if not for sure away. We don't have an off day any day but Sunday. I throw my props out because the students and the coaches have doing a fantastic job of sanitizing, keeping their social distance, but especially wearing their masks on the floor. We all know how hard it is to walk up a set of stairs, let alone run up and down the floor wearing a mask or wrestling with a mask or so be it. So they're doing a great job, and hopefully we just keep going. I know Exeter shut down today, so we have to reschedule a couple games. But it's just the nature of the beast and the kids understand it. So doing a great job.
Okay, good. Do we have like full teams, like JV teams, and it seems like participation's down.
Depending on, and for the teams like girls basketball, the roster's a little smaller. So we had to cancel our JV game on Saturday. We had a couple out in quarantine.
Right.
We had a couple that were working. So when you have that smaller roster, and you get a couple kids out for quarantine or a kid that tests positive, it does impact. Girls basketball at the middle school is a little bit smaller of a squad, but besides that, everybody's pretty, and middle school wrestling's a little smaller this year. But that's across the board, wrestling's down in numbers anyway. So yeah, we'll just it's kind of day to day really on rosters.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The next item is activity fees for winter sports.
Yeah, not necessarily for the sports. So we put out the notice that we needed to get our activity fees in. We delayed just to make sure that we were having a season.
Mm-hmm.
Since we feel pretty good about it right now, we've put that out. My question for the board is for the clubs. Most of the clubs are operating on Zoom. If they're meeting at all, I think the only club that might be meeting in person is the Ecology Club over in the Coral Reef. That might be one time a week. It is very scattered. It's very haphazard. And I guess the question is, before we send out the notice that the club sports need to pay their activity fees, do we really want to do that? They're not really meeting. I know the activity fee goes towards those salaries, but it's one thing to have student athletes pay that activity fee. It's another thing to have a club that only meets once every 3 weeks pay an activity fee.
I'd be okay with waiving the activity fee this year.
For the clubs.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The next item then is the turf proposal.
Okay, so we all know we needed to, or we're going to need to replace the turf this summer. Field Turf is the company that we would like to go with. That's who did the original project, and that was 10 or 11 years ago. I think you might be on 11 right now. What I did was I had Field Turf come out and break down what we're looking for into an itemized type quote. We know that we're going to, if you take the quote that I gave you, we know we're going to have the engineering and the synthetic turf replacement. That's going to come to pretty much a little bit around like $550, right? But what I also added in was we have an issue down there when we have track. Because all the pits, all the pole vault pits, the jump pits are at one end of the stadium. So it makes track meets go long. And we're double booked sometimes. So we might have a track meet at 3 o'clock, but then we have a lacrosse game at 5:30. And that delays the lacrosse game later. What I wanted to do, since we have that open area behind towards the concession stand that is turf, is move one of the jump pits down there so that we can have those going at the same time. That's a dream wish, I'm going to tell you, because it's not cheap. But it's something that keeps us on schedule. It's something for the future that would help the athletes. So when we look at that, that's not something that we have to do. It's just something that would make things in terms of scheduling much easier. The next piece is the track repairs. That track is fantastic. It's got another 5 years in it. But if you do walk around the track, there are some edges and some areas that need to be repaired on the outside, on the inside. Those are things that we need to do. And the last piece of that, talking to Steve Biggerstaff, Colin Halter, and Scott Matz, when they put that turf in originally, there's only one outlet, and it's home side on the 50-yard line. So that's the only place where we have electrical. While we have the turf up, we'd like to put conduits around the outside. And put another electrical outlet on the 50 on the away side, and then I'm not sure when it's going to happen, but it probably is going to happen. The 30-second or the 40-second play clock. Some schools do it, some schools don't. Right now, we don't have electrical in either end zone, so we would put an electrical outlet at each pole, and the clocks would be mounted onto the side of the field goal. Uprights, if we get to that. At some point, I imagine the PIAA is going to say that you have to have that clock in the end zones. If we had to do it right now, we'd have to have generators out there, and it's just easier while we have the turf up to run the conduit.
So the pole vaulting pits, that was on that's page 2 here, is that?
The pole vault pits are on page 2.
Yeah.
That's 15 through 24.
And so you're saying that's optional at
That's
this
an
point?
optional. The other stuff really isn't optional.
No.
It's mostly, the other stuff is mostly repairs to the track, and then obviously the synthetic turf, and whatever maintenance or any type of, when we get that turf up, any type of repairs that we have to do underneath there.
Okay. Now, doing that, I know that for some reason we can't host county meets or things like that.
For the track?
Yeah, because of the configuration of the track.
Yeah. So I did ask them, I didn't put the, because we weren't going to, we are not resurfacing the track. We still have another 5 years on the track.
Okay.
I did talk to them, what would happen if we wanted to finish that track out.
Mhm.
Meaning you have 8 lanes that go down the home side.
Right.
And to be honest with you, the gentleman that came out said this is probably one of the fastest tracks in the district, not just in the Berks, but in the district. So it was created to host
Mhm.
big meets. The problem is when you hit the turns, it drops down to 6, and we built the wall. What I would suggest when we do redo the track is that we take that wall out. We finish the 2 lanes all the way around. It would butt it right up to about pretty close to the stands on the opposite side, but we wouldn't be able to go all the way around. But that's down the road.
Okay.
And that would probably be, I think they said maybe a $200,000 project. It's not as much as we thought.
Okay. Do you have to turn the track around the starting lanes? I wasn't familiar with it. I've heard that.
It probably would allow us, when they resurface that track, it would allow us to not have starting lines all over the track like they do now.
Okay.
It would allow us to start and stop where we're supposed to, maybe 1 or 2 here and there.
Okay.
But right now, if you walk out there, they're starting because it is 6 to 8, 8 lanes to 6 lanes. There are a number of starting and stopping and finishing lines out there. It makes it kind of confusing.
Okay.
And I asked them, and obviously we want to be first on the list to get this done
Yes.
in the summer. I talked to Mr. Spores. I think we outlined the second week of June to get it started, which would allow us, the 5-week project would get us to those first couple weeks in July, which is about when we start our fall sports anyway.
Okay. And to get there, we have to have approval by when?
I kind of already penciled this in.
Okay.
Knowing that whoever we went with,
Yeah.
we wanted to start them.
Yep.
So I would hope that maybe within the next 2 board meetings we could get it going on this.
Okay. All right. Good. Any other questions? Or?
Is this already budgeted?
Yeah, we've been budgeting for a long time for this. Yeah, it's supposed to replace less than 10 years, and we're at year 11, so
Yeah.
we've been budgeting. Yeah. Yep. Okay. And then I guess the last new item is the unified track update.
I put this on here. Obviously, we're starting our unified track program this spring. The job has been posted. We've already had 2 applicants. It's only been posted since Monday. But what I really wanted to put this on for was because I would like the student leadership group has been doing a fantastic job with this. And I know they presented Mr. Spores to the staff, and I think they're going to do it here in another 2 weeks or something like that. I would like them to come present to you because they're really taking this on, and it's a great unifying program for the school and for this district
Okay.
and for this community.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to hear the details.
Okay. So our next extracurricular committee, I would like to have them come and present to you guys.
Okay, sure. All right, any other questions? No? All right, any new business? No? All right, well, that concludes our extracurricular committee meeting for January. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.